But yeah, he has like this certain attitudes and quotes and times that he just says random stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, GunGFu!" That's it's just it's just a blast.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's one clip of him playing Among Us that's kind of infamous in the player circles. So yeah, maybe we'll get to share that at some point. But into the game, Steadfast.
Into the game we go as we have spawning up at the top right for the Platinum Heroes. It is Goblin.
And his opponent. In the top right-hand side, it is GunGFuBanDa. What team is this, Steadfast?
This is Infernalis Esports.
Infernalis Esports. Thank you.
Yes. Neat little pronunciation. I kind of enjoy it. Normally we do the little banter thing, but we've got something interesting from both players right out of the gate, and that is a 2-gate high ground, despite the map being what it is. I mean, this is pretty interesting. This is a deviation.
Yeah, I suppose you could see it as a deviation. There are certain players who just prefer this style over the other, and some that are very flexible, and some that are just like really down to expand on the low ground almost no matter what, right? Like Geralt comes to mind as a player that pretty much always goes for the high ground double gate. So yeah, we'll see what they have in store for us here. But Goblin already has a pylon out on the map, so interesting stuff. What do you think that's gonna be?
That is a good question. I think it's probably going to be a proxy robo, but we will see in just a little bit. Yeah, I got to agree with you. Geralt is the one that comes to mind when I think of like, okay, he is always going to do it. There it is. There's that proxy robo. He delays his first couple of stalkers and warp gate. I believe GunGFuBanDa, yeah, he sees that there's no warp gate just yet, and he might have seen that the 2 stalkers were a little bit delayed. At the very least, he knows there's no second pylon in the main. And that on its own is already a little bit of a tell. And Goblin, he's got a reputation as being an aggressive player.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the second pylon is the biggest tell, right? Like you have to have a second pylon somewhere out on the map if it's not in the main. So it's just an issue of trying to find it. And we see GunGFuBanDa already going out and kind of splitting his stalkers around looking for a proxy anywhere. So yeah, the probe is actually also looking. It's a very cute position from Goblin. So we'll see. It does not get spotted yet. And oh, did he see it?
No way. No way. He didn't see it. Oh,
really
that is adorable. That is downright adorable. That is an impressive little spot right there. And I wonder if maybe he did his research on where his opponent likes to scout. We are going to see the probe. I think it got enough vision to see that there was no nexus. I'm not quite sure. It is going to be really close, down to a couple of pixels. He is going for a Stargate opener, and it's going to be an Oracle, not a Void Ray. So he doesn't know exactly what this is, not yet.
Yeah, still the Oracle has a lot of potential to keep Goblin at bay, but Goblin's already out on the map, and now GunGFuBanDa is going to find out the hard way that there's an Immortal already out. That position, again, yeah, I think like you're saying, it could very well be an issue of Goblin having spotted the scouting patterns of GunGFuBanDa, but also on this map, just because of the side blockers, right? It's a really cute position where it doesn't get scouted by the normal pathing.
Yeah.
So I quite like it. And Goblin already here, he has a Warp Prism on the way, so he's probably going to wait for that to poke up the ramp and then micro his heart out.
Yeah, very interesting move to go for Zealots here as Goblin on the defensive warp in. We are going to see as you said, the gateway getting picked away at. I mean, as long as you're careful with the micro, you should be able to at least get the first gateway for free. And I think you should be able to get the second one. You just got to be, kind of leading with the Immortal to make sure it gets its damage. Goblin, he's going to be chipping away at this. On the other side of the map, it looks like it's double Oracle now, so he's going to be able to gun down every probe. Oh, there we go. Okay, 2 stalkers. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Goblin, he's just kind of playing this as a pressure right now, and he's going to turn this into a contain, I think.
Yeah, I quite love this. He's already taking the Nexus, as you were talking about. It's just going to be pressure contain, and already warping in those 2 stalkers to answer the Oracle. So GunGFuBanDa with the right idea. Obviously, one Oracle is not going to be able to out-DPS the shield battery, so it needs the second one to really join in and do damage. But Goblin knows that, and he hasn't committed to this frontal attack as an all-in. So beautiful job from the Croatian here.
Yeah, Goblin, he's like really trying to force the issue here, and I don't know if it's the best idea. He will be able to pick off a couple of units, so this is actually starting to go pretty nicely. Oh man, he's actually starting to kill a lot of these units. This might just snowball right here and now.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't need to do more damage, right? So that's why you're saying you don't know if it's a great idea, but he does have the capabilities to do more damage because he killed both of the gateways. So GunGFuBanDa wasn't fast enough to replace that production. We can see that he has now some production in the back of his base, but it's just simply not been enough to mitigate for the damage here. And Goblin's gonna kill GunGFuBanDa with his pressure build, not really intended to kill his opponent.
It's that's the face of a man who just accidentally killed his opponent for sure. The little crossed two fingers in front of the mouth, that was perfect. Well done right there by Goblin, and like you said, good job from him to recognize. So we didn't see it, but there was the first poke. Goblin lost like he lost a sentry, he lost a zealot, I think, and he lost maybe a stalker as well for just I think one unit. And I looked back and you're like, oh, wow, there's only one sentry left over. He kind of tried to force the issue. But like you said, GunGFuBanDa was a little too late.
Goblin lost a sentry and a Salad and a Stalker?
Yeah. Yeah, the first poke before, because I checked the battle report. Because I was like, oh, he's got 2 sentries. This is going to be great. And then we look back and one of the sentries is gone. And I'm like, wait, what? Those don't just disappear. Those have to be killed. But yeah, I guess he forced a poke the first time, but it softened his opponent up maybe, and it gave him the opportunity to break through. And from there he took the opportunity that he was given by those late gateways. I think you were right on point with that, and that the production was just a little bit too late.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he would have even made sentries. I didn't see them personally, but yeah, I'll trust you on that. And yeah, I think after killing the production, that was just good from Goblin to take the Nexus, to warp in the Stalkers back at home, and to further recognize that he still had the potential to micro. And yeah, it seems risky, but as long as you have the Warp Prism, you really shouldn't waste anything. And he poked with the 2 Immortals, right? Waits for the force fields, and he knows that he can always evacuate once that has that Warp Prism. So no real risk, but potential to kill his opponent. That's exactly what happened. And now we are in game número 2.
That we are spawning up at the top right for the Platinum Heroes. It is Goblin.
And in the bottom left-hand side, his opponent from Infernalis or Infernalis. Is it Spanish or Latin?
I don't know.
is it a U or an E?
It's an E, I believe.
Okay, that sounds like Spanish then. For Infernalis Esports, is GunGFuBanDa.
That was a beautiful little bit of extra like spice you put on it. That was brilliant. That was nice. I like that. That's that was just a nice little intro on it.
Nice. Well,
so
we're gonna see.
I don't think I could imitate
fairly
that.
Fast scout here from GunGFuBanDa.
Yeah, is he trying to represent a cannon rush?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was a pylon scout, was it? Or is Goblin late scouting? It's either or.
No, I think it was a pylon scout. I think you're right. That's a pretty early scout, and you're trying to do something with that.
All right.
Wait, no. Maybe GunGFuBanDa's.
Maybe it was Goblin that was the late scouting.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because sometimes I don't look at the scout timings and I just base it based on what time they get there. It took me so long to actually start thinking about timings, even in Zerg matchups, which is the race I even play. But I was just like, no, this should happen when my hatch finishes. And then it's like, well, what happens if your hatch gets delayed? And it's like, well, I guess I lose.
Yeah, it's very interesting with timings, like how players structure timings and whatnot, because a lot of people tend to think in different forms, right? Like a lot of people like to look at the clock for their timings, not the most reliable way to do it, but in the early game it can work. And even for different races, like for Terran, for example, the production is a good indicator of timings or SCV marks and supply marks. Whereas with Zerg, a lot of the time it's just like drone counts, for example, are your benchmarks, right? It's like, oh, you make 66 drones, which in turn is equivalent to just like saturating a number of bases before you start making units and so on. So yeah, timings are weird, right? Like I personally almost never look at the clock in the last 20 years as far as like the timings are concerned. But in PvP, I know that a gateway scout is the way that I usually want to scout because it'll give you the information that you want. And if it's a pylon scout, it's usually, like you alluded to, something like a really early forge, right? And you would know in a game because you would see the timing of your opponent's scout relative to yours.
Yeah, exactly. That's you can use your own scout as a benchmark as long as you're doing a standard timing. And that's the other thing too, is if you get too reliable or too reliant on certain things, it can leave you a little bit adrift. Now we are seeing a very aggressive play coming in from Goblin, and this is his game plan. It seems like in a lot of these PvPs in this group, he's going to go for another aggressive play. This is going to be a 4-gate Blink Stalker, pretty much all in. And GunGFuBanDa, okay, he started up a Twilight Council, but as he sees no Nexus, he cancels it, builds a robotics facility. That's a good response, but will he have enough time to get out the number of units that he needs?
Yeah, I mean, he does have the ramp to work with and a really nice position on the shield battery. It's pretty far back there. It's not going to be easy to get picked off. And he has 2 sentries also, which are going to buy him a lot of time, right? So Goblin is going to have to wait for the blink to make anything happen. And by then, I think we'll have an Immortal close to popping up. So there's going to be a very narrow window of opportunity for Goblin to try and do something. But I don't think he has the numbers to out DPS shield battery overcharge before the Immortal pops out.
No, it certainly doesn't seem like that, but he is going to be able to blink into the main base directly.
True.
If he gets... Oh, no, he doesn't actually have anything that provides vision just yet. I would have thought he would have worked in a sentry or something for hallucination, but no, he's just focusing purely on the stalkers. So, and it's not like you can cheekily blink a stalker to the ramp and then provide high ground vision. Like, it's pretty far back. Force fields, ooh, not the best force fields to start things off. We will see Goblin losing one of his stalkers, though. Very important that when you're going for something like this, your stalker retention is pretty much perfect.
Yeah, especially because you actually need that many stalkers to start one-shotting units, right? I think you need something like 10 or 11 stalkers, which is exactly the number that Goblin had. So very good force fields from GunGFuBanDa, even just to make sure that some of the stalkers in the back don't get to output the damage at the same time as everyone else. Because then he ensures that, he's not going to be getting one shot, and if you're not, then your shield battery is going to do the work. Now an Immortal's out, and things are looking pretty grim for Goblin here.
Yeah, they certainly are. He still hasn't warped. Oh, no, he has warped into Sentry now. Okay, so he will be building energy for that Hallucination Scout. Does lose 2 Stalkers, 3 Stalkers very quickly right there. You cannot dodge those Immortal shots. And that was a lot of damage. There is that Sentry. It's building energy right now. But losing those Stalkers... I'm not even that scared now for GunGFuBanDa about a blink into the main base. That doesn't even feel that scary unless Goblin can like really catch him napping somehow. But he's got a probe in position that we can see. It's going to see basically as these units get ready to blink up.
Yeah, I mean, this has so little potential here. He's going to go after the robo, which I quite like. Maybe end up getting it if he had focus fired all of it. Now he does, but will cost him a couple of stalkers on the retreat. And yeah, I mean, GunGfu is just in a commanding position here. I really don't see how he could possibly lose this game. He's already got the probe lead as well. He has the tech lead. He has the Immortals. So really, it's just an issue of holding for a little bit longer, and Goblin is on a timer. I would not be surprised or disappointed if he just gave up.
Yeah, it would be quite reasonable at this point. He's already... Oh, he's going to move forward. He's going to try and go after the Immortals. Does get one of them, but it costs him so many Stalkers. And I think that is the last bit of steam kind of in this attack. The only thing is that while this robotics facility is rebuilding, he can't build more Immortals, obviously. And losing one of those is a little bit painful. He does pick off a couple of Stalkers here. And it is important to note that the production for GunGFuBanDa has been a little bit late in terms of adding it on. However, he's about to have a few more gateways coming. Well, he's got one more about to finish and then 2 more coming in behind that in like a minute or so.
Yeah, and I mean, he has double the mineral income that his opponent has, and yeah, GG. I mean, that game was pretty much over when it started, when GunGFuBanDa scouted and he reacted as well as he did. I really don't like the approach from Goblin on this particular map, but also props to GunGFuBanDa because he had those very early sentries as well. That was really nice to gather energy with those and just protect his ramp from the very potentially dangerous timing. But again, yeah, on this map, I don't see how like this sort of timing should work. There's a very powerful ramp there and plenty of space to drop the shield battery in the back like GunGfu did. And yeah, I thought that wasn't the best approach or attempt from Goblin there.
Yeah, I think as a general rule, a 4-gate Blink Stalker play is not a bad move in a PvP, especially when you have the micro that Goblin's capable of. But I got to agree, it feels like the map layout really doesn't lend to that 4-gate Blink Stalker playing out the way you want it to. I mean, the ramp at the natural already makes it a little bit difficult. Then the fact that the ramp, or the distance between the ramp at the main to the ramp at the natural, means you can't just cheekily blink a Stalker onto the ramp to provide high ground vision and bypass the defenses. There's not the most comfortable position to blink into the main base and like really catch your opponent out. It just feels like that map is almost designed to defend that kind of attack as opposed to try and execute it.
Yeah, it's a really vast natural as well in terms of size, right? So it allows you to place that shield battery so far back that there's not really any chance that you can pick it off or anything like that. I do commend Goblin on basically waiting till he had 11 Stalkers to try and one-shot Stalkers and kind of bypass the healing of the shield battery. But again, pretty much impossible with GunGFu, just with good positioning and those force fields to section off the units and make sure that they didn't output all of their damage simultaneously. So great job from GunGFuBanDa, and yeah, mostly a game just won by good scouting, good reacting, and it really felt like Goblin had no business in there after that.
Yeah, it certainly did, and we'll have to see if he can bring it back and, well, maybe hit with something aggressive once again. We're going to see as we have spawning down on the bottom left. For the Platinum Heroes, it's Goblin.
And on the top right-hand side, his opponent for Infernalis Esports, it is GunGFuBanDa.
GunGFuBanDa. That's fun. Oh, and for the first time, okay, we're going to have one of them going for the low ground expansion and one of them going for the high ground expansion. That's, I mean, it's interesting. We've already gotten 3 very different maps just based on openings alone. And that's pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure. This one's, I think, the shortest rush map distance of the 3, right? So, yeah, I'm not sure if that plays a huge role into what the strategies early on are going to be here. But yeah, definitely a ramped map, so always an option to drop that pylon on the low ground. And Goblin is going to take it this time around.
Yeah, GunGFuBanDa electing not to scout Goblin. If he is so inclined, he can get away with just a gate nexus, which, as MaxPax has taught us, is just a fantastic opener against the 2-gate. Like, the massive advantage that you get really cannot be overstated if your opponent doesn't try and do something to punish it. And if they do try and do something to punish it, you're attacking usually up a ramp into a defensively oriented Protoss with battery overcharge. Like, it's tough to get anything done against this. And if you don't, you're going to be just a little bit behind.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And that's why the standard in this matchup is usually a gateway scout, right? Very much so that you can actually deny that nexus on the low ground. So maybe GunGFu thinking that Goblin would go for the gateways on the high ground yet again, but not the case at all. And yeah, that nexus is going to be dropped. So now it's on GunGFu, like you were alluding to try and make something happen. So it's just going to be an issue of what that is. Players like, again, Geralt, that are very comfortable with these 2 gateways will try to transition out of it. But whenever I look at the game state after the fact, after this has gone on, if you don't try to punish it, like you were saying, it's very much true that you're just straight up behind, right? So GunGFu, I mean, he does seem to want to drop that nexus on the low ground. So he is going to play in catch up.
Yeah, and you can do that. You certainly can, but you have to do a little something to slow your opponent down. Now, whether that means bluffing them into thinking that you are all-inning, or whether that means getting in with an Oracle, getting some damage done, dropping a couple of depths in the main base or slipping them in somehow. But he is going to drop the Stargate after killing the probe. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I love that because the probe went to the low ground in vision of Goblin's probe and dropped the pylon and positioned itself to take a nexus. All in vision of Goblin, who was trapped inside. So as soon as the probe dies, GunGFuBanDa drops the Stargate, and I like that. I further like that because Goblin's response to what GunGFuBanDa has done here is a robo, which is not ideal either against Stargate. So now probably we're gonna see an Oracle or 2, if not a straight up Phoenix, but I think Oracle much more likely. And Goblin has done a very good job of identifying that his opponent was kind of bluffing and that he has not taken that expansion. So that's good on him.
Yeah, very good to make sure of that. He does lose this Adept right here, so that means he can't scout in and see. I think right now, you send another probe out onto the map. I think especially because you saw the other 2 Stalkers come home, I think you have to send a probe out onto the map right this moment in order to be able to check and see if a Nexus was taken. That is what MaxPax would do. But Goblin, unfortunately, is not going to be doing that right here. And so now he is going to be a little bit in the dark as to whether this will be an all-in follow-up or whether this is going to just be defensive. And you can see he's building Immortals. He does get one of these Stalkers of his opponent, which is pretty nice. But he's building Immortals, and he doesn't know that he is actually safe to build more probes right here.
Yeah, but he had been probing up until this point, so I had the same concern as you. Up until now, he had been probing up, but like you said, because he doesn't have that information, because he doesn't have an extra adept or a probe out on the map to double check, he doesn't know if he's safe to continue on. And so he will stop for now until he sees GunGFuBanDa do something, and the something is going to be an Oracle poke with adept also. So GunGfu is going to be trying to not end the game, but rather just kind of pull it back in his favor on the economic front. And I like to see that. We'll see how much he's able to accomplish.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Goblin has built not one, not two, but 3 Immortals to try and prevent this from becoming a problem. Oh, nice little gateway wall right there. Oh. If it wasn't for that, he would have probably gotten jumped on it. But now the double Oracle comes into the main base, and that is going to do more than equalize. That is going to put GunGFuBanDa into a phenomenal position here. Picks off 7 workers. And he's still got these adepts. They are going to be able to shade forward. I think you just shade right now. I think you commit, and I think you kill off. How many probes is he going to get? Well, he's going to get a few.
Could have been 3 or 4. And it's more because he was focused on the Oracles, I think. Definitely could have gotten 3 or 4 with the adepts if he had focus fired from the start. But altogether, he gets 12 probes for his efforts. So now GunGFuBanDa has to worry about a counter offense because Goblin does have those 3 Immortals. And Goblin, he has to put those to use. So I love what we're seeing here from Goblin. This is for the game right now, and GunGFuBanDa knows it. He's going to drop 3 shield batteries, and I like the sentry as well, though it's a little bit of an afterthought, sadly.
Yeah, the War Prism is coming on in as well. It's only 2 gates for Goblin, but that War Prism with the micro potential is going to be so crucial. We do see Goblin, or rather GunGfu, trying to pick off one of these units as it comes up the ramp. Nice force fields right there. That is huge. Picks off 2 of those Stalkers. Battery overcharge.
Exposed.
Yeah, it's going to get instantly blown up. And I think with the firepower that Goblin does have, GunGFuBanDa is going to be left in the dust. I think what GunGFuBanDa needed is as soon as he killed those probes, I think he needed to start up a Void Ray. I think when you see those 3 Immortals, you got to recognize that that's way too much firepower.
Yeah, and that your opponent has to move out. Like I said, like I like the sentry. It's too bad that it was an afterthought because his opponent was already mostly like across the map, right? So if he had warped in a couple of sentries to buy himself time at least, then maybe that would have been another option. Void Ray would have been good, like you were mentioning as well. So yeah, I mean, GunGFuBanDa with the right idea, I think, to catch up, but not so much on the follow-up. And with that, Goblin is going to secure this 3rd game by the looks of it. I mean, this natural will be forfeit, and I don't know what GunGfu can do from here.
Yeah, he's got Blink, but that's literally the only thing he really has as an advantage in this game. He's down army supply. The firepower is so much higher. We do see a nice little defensive concave, but the War Prism is going to be able to still save these units. Okay, now with battery overcharge, you should definitely back away as Goblin. I was going to say, I don't think you really need to push. He's up 20 workers. There is really no reason to be trying to push in here. I know he's got the opportunity, and it is a ton of firepower on these Immortals. Now that the battery overcharge is gone, I think it's okay to keep at least poking, but he's got to be careful not to overcommit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's the force field there, so that's a little bit interesting. On the other side, the Oracles are going to do equalizing damage, and here is where that poke does pay off, right? Because those Oracles could actually be the one way back into the game for GunGfu, but it's not going to be so. One Immortal does die on that War Prism, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter. And yeah, Goblin is going to take game number 3.
Yeah, he did have enough to break through. Wasn't, you know, it was an aggressive move, but it was enough to